Okay, peace everyone. Hopefully you are all doing well. I am Master Menelek and we're back with another sketching session. And today we're going to start dealing with value, right? Value is, let me do my chalkboard thing. Make sure my stuff is connected. Okay, there we go. So today we're going to deal with value. Value is our perception of how light. Keep going with them. How light or how dark certain areas or aspects of an image are. Or and let me know if the music is too loud for you if you want me to turn it down. But how light and dark an image is, or um, the presence or absence of light, right? Which is basically what we're dealing with: presence and the absence of light. So that's what we're dealing with value, and it's not always very cut and dry. I'm also kind of late to add some images for us to look at. But yeah, it's not always as cut and dry as, oh, this image has light, like you can see here. Oh, this image has light, or this image doesn't have light. It's not always so simple because light and darkness, there's a very subtle but a very important interchange between them, or interplay between them. And that interplay helps us to perceive the world, right? So we're going to be looking at a few images and just getting used to the idea of spotting where something becomes light or something becomes dark. Um, Dark areas that contain light, light areas that contain dark, etc., etc., or quarter or quarter. And we'll play around with it and also get into some science, right? Because art is very scientific because you're still dealing with the physical universe, right? And expressing the physical universe. When you're dealing with certain types of art that's representative, or when you're drawing something from real life, but even if you're doing something that's coming directly from your memory or your imagination, you're still dealing with something that has its basis in what you can perceive with your mind. And typically, because we're so used to seeing um, the physical space or physical reality, um, we're used to comparing things to what we've seen already. That's how we make sense of them. So that's what I wanted to deal with today. Light is a very interesting concept in and of itself, whether it's art or physics, or just a theoretical or what do you call it? A theoretical or a conceptual um, idea. So yeah, we're gonna go through it and peace on the radio. Yeah, feel free to join in if you want to, if you're coming in late, um, or if you're catching this afterwards. Just wanted to say welcome and let's get into it. So let me start with an exercise that we all can do if we're trying to strengthen our ability to perceive light on different scales. I'm kind of missing my tripod now because it held my iPod in place and it allowed me to record everything um, on my book, on my sketchbook, my physical sketchbook. I'm still getting used to using these digital art programs. But I'll get the hang of it. But I really wish I did have it for this segment because I'm so much more accustomed to simply using pressure to express value and light and shadow. Um, so we'll make it work on a hidden layer. Oh, so let me just move this to the side. And okay, so let's get into the value spectrum now. Make a new layer. Deselect. And I guess I'll find something that works well enough. Make it a little less dark. So I'll make it a very light image. Um, First things first. Let me see if I can make straight lines. Whoops. Oh, don't do that to me. There we go. Yeah, close enough. Okay, so I'm gonna draw several little rectangular boxes, several boxes, and these are gonna serve as my my light spectrum or my value spectrum. Oh, I know what I'll do. Oh, me use head. Okay, that's what I'll do. Save time. That's close enough. I wonder if I could duplicate this now. I copy, paste. And okay, drag these into place. Okay, cool. That'll work. So now that we've got our value spectrum blocks in place, peace after Naya. Peace. How you doing? Um, oh, feel free to join in. So what I'm going to do now is start from a very light end of the spectrum and progressively move to a very dark end of the spectrum. I'll say very shadowy side. Okay, so I hope this thing goes with pressure. Let's see. Oh wow, it actually does. That's still too dark. Let's see. Okay. Lighten it up just a little bit. A little bit lighter. It's important to actually, I'm not even going to fill that first one. I'm going to leave it completely white. And I'll start off with this one. Right. And notice I'm barely putting anything in there. And I guess I can add a little bit more tech pressure onto this one. Another thing that you can do, especially since you're using a very physical instrument, if you are following along, is do something called layering, right? So if you can see this mouse thingy moving, but even if not, if you can look to the right and you see those blue boxes moving back and forth, this whole panel is called our layers panel, right? And it basically simulates stacking things on top of one another. And that's what I'm going to do here in this third box from the left. Now that I have one layer of quote unquote pencil here, I'm just going to add another layer on top of it, and that's going to make it darker. Okay. And I'll do the same thing here and make it darker still. Not that dark. I'll stick to a gradual progression. And I made this a lot darker, because we're getting into a shadowy side now. So I'll even add 3 layers or 4. And you can see how it's getting progressively darker. And it's getting so dark that I'm going to increase this flow a little bit more. A little bit more. That is dark. And I'm just going to add some more darkness there. And since these two are basically almost identical, I'll get a little bit darker. And since this is be my darkest hue, I'll pretty much almost go pitch black. All right. So that's my progression, my value progression, going from light to shadow. Right. Let me move this. Uh oh. Can I move it? Is it this one? Or is it this one? Ah, it's this one. Yeah, let me get you out the way. Okay. So I want to get a little bit into how light works. Um, a little bit of the science, not too much, just a little bit of the science. And let me just open up my notes here. Okay, so we obviously know that light is what makes things visible, right? Light allows us to see. It also relates to knowledge if you're dealing with supreme mathematics or anything esoteric or metaphysical. Light typically deals with knowledge, which is why you would often see knowledge depicted as light or fire or as an eye, etc. Um, in historical times, Grecians believed, like a lot of people in the ancient world, there was a theory. There were a lot of prevailing theories about how our eyes work and how we perceive light. One of them was that our eyes projected light, right? So it's almost like laser beams. Our eyes projected light, and that allowed us to see things. Another theory was that everything in the physical universe emitted its own light, right? And that allowed us to see what was going on. And another theory, which is what the model that we kind of operate from today, our eyes receive light, right? And one of the things about that is we're only capable of receiving um, light at a particular frequency, which is it's super small compared to all of the light that exists around us, right? So imagine if you were only capable of seeing this box right here. Draw an arrow. Imagine if you were only capable of seeing this box right here, and everything else was just invisible, right? That would be kind of similar to what we're capable of seeing. In fact, I have a chart. Let me see if I can pull up my Chizard. Peace, Sister Yafet. Let's see. Um, yeah, so if you can all see that, um, we have higher energy lights, which are like gamma radiation, and like the Hulk, the gamma rays turn them into the Hulk. Then we have X rays, which we know emit a level of light that allows us to see beneath skin. Not beneath it, but it highlights your bone density more than anything else. Then you have ultraviolet light, those UV rays. Then we have that tiny little box in the center, which is the visible light spectrum. Then we have infrared light, microwaves, and then radio waves, right, which are lower frequencies. And of course, if you look at the colors beneath it, you would recognize those lights on that spectrum as lights or colors that correspond with our chakra wheels, right? So you have from the right to the left our root chakra, then we have our sacral chakra, the solar plexus, the heart chakra, throat chakra, first eye chakra, and then the crown chakra, right? And each of them have their own wavelengths and different frequencies, which is super important, especially when we get into color, right? But color is kind of its own thing, and we'll see when we get to it, because color deals with whoops. It deals with polychromatic light. But what we're dealing with here is monochromatic light. And I really don't want this to sound like a class, but this is technically like a sketch journal that you're witnessing. So bear with me with all the technical terms. So there's polychromatic light, which we'll deal with when we get to colors, hues and values and saturation and whatnot. But we're dealing with monochromatic light. So we only really need to deal with value and saturation, kind of, but just value, right? For the sake of making keeping things simple, right? So we're dealing with monochromatic light here, which means we only see um, what we would call neutral colors: white, black, gray. That's it, right? So I'm gonna move all of this stuff out of the way. Uh-oh, that's gonna be a problem. I don't want to delete them. I'll just move them to the side. That's done. What the? Oh, I need to merge all of it. That's what I'm gonna do. Um, Let me see if I can do this. Oh, there's the merge option here. Yeah, I'm just gonna merge all of these things together so that when I try to erase something, and deselect guy. Okay, I guess I can't do that. Oh, I can do that though. Okay, and I can't merge them because I can. Look at that. Okay, now that I'm able to move everything, let me just get you out of the way. Aha. Okay, so I'm just gonna leave this up here just in case anyone was interested in still seeing it. Let's go into not this one. Let's do a simple one. Yeah, this one is pretty simple. Okay, so what we want to identify when we look at any image, one of the first things we want to deal with is it's going to sound intuitive when I make note of it. Light source. Where is our light coming from? Right? I'll actually let everyone in the. What have I done? I'll actually let everyone in the chat answer this one. Where is the light coming from? From which side of his face is the light shining? Is it from north, south, east, west, northeast, southwest? Yeah, I'll leave a little time for the delay too. That'll give me some time to check out what's going on in the chat. Okay, peace. How's Menelek? Shalom, how's Menelek? Peace. Sovereign Eats, peace. Sister Maria. Shalom, Master Menelek. I had my student drawing to your Mythos video today. It was the funniest thing to watch this 9-year-old scrub the video to find the tutorial section. Yeah, because they don't care about the theory. But good to know, though, in terms of how I structure everything, because I kind of just meander. Then he opened another tab to play his music while sketching. I couldn't video him, but I had a good laugh. Then he discovered you were teaching and speaking, and he took off the music. Oh, huh. Imagine that. All right, give thanks. I appreciate that. That made my night. A 9-year-old was actually able to stomach listening to me. Okay, good to know. But yeah, anyone in the chat, where do you think the light is coming from? Guess that delay is not a myth. I'm a. Okay, there we go. Imanaya says, I'll say the light is coming from the east side, a little southeast. Okay, cool. I'll take it. Yeah, it's coming from the east side or the right side, right? And you know that because you can see, obviously, there's a lot more shadow than there is light on the left side or on the west side. So I'm just going to go to one of my funky light neon colors so that we can see what I'm doing over here. So yeah, the light is coming from this side. And you can see from his hair, right? These light blocks around his hair, that the light is coming from. Oh, let me not draw on that so you guys can see. The light is actually coming from northeast as well, right? At least northeast enough to light up this portion of his hair. And if you had said northeast, you'd be right also. If you said southeast, you would also be correct. And as long as you were saying anywhere relatively east, I would even accept north or south. Why? Because light does not move. Light does not stop when it hits an object, right? Light bounces off of objects. So what you're saying is, you're seeing this person. Yeah, I could do that. You're seeing this person's face, right? And you're seeing that all of this is basically light, and everything else is sort of whoa, I forgot this was so dark. Everything else is sort of darkened. And you have his nose, of course. Reduce that size. You have his nose. I got your nose. You have his you have his nose, his mouth, 2 eyes, and you have his ears, and then on his neck you have this little lamed sort of shape. And all of this over here is sort of dark. But look at all of this light stuff going on, right? There's light bouncing off of his eyes. It couldn't get inside of his eye socket completely because it's sunken in. So you'll see some shadows there. You see some light bouncing off of this area here. Some light bouncing off of the side of his neck. Yeah. It's bouncing off of the little piece of his shirt that's poking out. But there's dark spots where the light just can't get to, right? So this will be the lightest area here, and everything else down here is like, it lets you know this is a valley because there's no light getting down there. So you already know that where it's darkest, either there's no light, because it's on the opposite side, like this is the light source. Let me make this a little darker. So this is your light source over here, and there's no light coming from this direction. It may be generous to receive some light, like this area here. So it's not completely in shadow. Right? It's not completely in shadow. So that lets us know that, I'll use this as an example. It's protruding out from the rest of the level playing field of the skin. So this is going to be lighter. Right? And this is how you create three-dimensionality. Because I notice it's lighter because it's protruding, so it's capturing light. As opposed to, well, we know the light source is coming from over here, so I can erase that. As opposed to something like this. This is a valley, so I already know this is going to be in shadow. All right, so there's going to be less light in here. Right, depending on the angle of the light. If the light is coming like from this direction, what's going to happen is I may get a little bit of light down here. But this, as long as because one of the easier ways to look at it too is whenever light is coming through, it's not going to pass through solid objects because it's so dense and all of the atoms are packed so tightly together that light can't penetrate. It's going to stop and it's going to bounce and it's going to bounce, right? And each time it bounces, it's going to get weaker. So as that light is getting weaker, you have situations like, I need to be able to cycle through these colors quicker. But you get situations like this happening because light is bouncing all over the place. And by the time it actually hits this thing, it's not getting its fair share, let's say. Whereas pieces and objects and spaces on the face or areas on the face that are much more protruded, like you already know the tip of the nose is going to get the lion's share of the light in this scenario. And maybe some is going to, trickle down. Yeah, what was that? Maybe some of it is going to trickle down into this area over there. Maybe, if it's good, it might get some toys for Christmas. This area right here is protruding as well, so it's going to get a lot of light. Whereas this area right here, you already know it's sunken in because it's so dark. Same with over here. There's going to be no light over here because everything's blocking it. It can't get this light coming from this area here because the face is blocking it. And it can't get it from this area here because this will be what you may consider to be the part of the neck that protrudes the most, right? This is like the Adam's apple or the beginning of the Adam's apple coming from this direction. By the time we already get around, gotta stop doing that. By the time we get around to this side of the face, remember we're dealing with cross contours that help us to determine curves in space. By the time it turns the corner, you turn the wrong corner. You know what I mean? You came from San Francisco and now you're in Inglewood, and you need to turn around quick before you get before you get jumped, right? So all of these light spots and dark spots, they're conveying information to us, right? Especially if you get some really dark spots. So, for example, this is what you would call, and I do this a lot when I'm drawing spheres. Like if you have, let's say, I don't care if it's, like if you have a sphere, right? And you have a shadow right here, but then you also have what's called an occlusion shadow, which means that there's no light passing through, right? So this area is going to be super dark. Why? Because a shadow has just been cast, and that lets me know, A, this is right beneath it, and B, the light is coming from this direction. Why? Because the shadow is darkest over here. So I know on the opposite side of this dark shadow, like right here, use this one. We already know on the other end of this dark shadow right here, is the light. This is the light source. Same with right here. Light source is up here. Same with down here. This is our light source. Same with down here. This is our light source, right? Ad infinitum. We could go on and on with it, but our light source is coming from northeast. And we know that because of where all the occlusion shadows are situated, right? Just a peek at the chat. Okay, east side. Sovereignty says the east side as well. Sovereignty also asks, so what if there is a mirror to his right? Will the light reflection be sufficient to brighten those depressions in the face? Yes. Yes, it actually will be sufficient. It won't be as bright because remember, each time the light bounces off of a solid object, it loses some of its power, right? It loses some of its strength because the surface actually absorbs some of the light. And when we get into color, we'll see how this works a little bit more. But they actually have a phrase in cinematography called key lighting, right? I wonder if I could find like a short demonstration without short circuiting the live and cutting everything off. But you have a phenomenon that's called, or not even a phenomenon, but you have a technique in filmmaking that's called, let me write it. Key lighting. And what key lighting does is someone would hold a reflective surface on this side of the person's face. So sometimes it's like a circular panel, a very light circular panel, easy to carry, that is basically covered in aluminum, right? Sometimes it's a white sheet, sometimes aluminum. And what it does is when the light is shining from this direction, whatever light doesn't get absorbed by the face, it actually hits this aluminum thing, and it bounces the light and reflects it back onto the face, and you get a lot of what's known as reflected light, or sometimes even reflected shadow. So let me see if I can continue with this sphere example up top here. So you actually get something that is slightly darker than your lightest lights, but it's not as dark as your darkest darks. And I know that sounds like cryptic riddle, but I'll show you what I mean. So you can have something like this. Oh, I'm using the wrong doggone tool. You can have something like this going on, right? Where I know this is my darkest dark set. So this is what it may look like without the key lighting. I heard a sound effect. Did someone join? Oh, okay. It must be here it is. Remember, I can't see you all in there. I gotta switch screens to see. Okay, so you have this dark side right here, right? And what happens is, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. It won't let me scroll around though. I don't know why this thing is like that, but you can see a little better. So I'm going to move this up a little bit. Now, notice it's still not as light as my lightest light, but it's a little lighter than the darkest darks. And what you'll have is a sort of reflected light or reflected shadow thing going on here. Right. And that's a super important technique if you want to get into a little bit more realism. Take this down. So if I blend these together a little bit, and you have some reflected light, on this guy's face. Like if you look on the far left, let me get my other color back. It's funky. If you look at this area here, you'll see this small area, like right here, on the edge of his face, where it's lighter than the shadowy area. Um, yeah, I don't know if you can see that, but it's very subtle on his face. But you will see dark spots where it seems to be light spots inside of them. And what's happening there is light is bouncing off of the surface and hitting them on that side. It's not originating from that side, technically, but because of physics, it's going to bounce off of that side of the wall or that side of the room and basically hit them on the face. All right. Yeah. So what we use this value scale for up top is to sort of map out exactly what category each one of these light colors sits in. This also helps you a lot in when you're dealing with color. Lights and colors are very similar. Value and color are very similar. Value helps you to understand color more, and it's like adding a third dimension to color. You could think about it like that, because with value you have lights and darks, or what you would call your tints. Tints would be your light color, and your shades, which would be your darker values, right? Tints and shades. So if you have let's say if you have a mid-tone, which is what people would call this one. Let me zoom in. And take this down a notch. All right, like a 5-year-old with this, but a mid-tone, right? So your mid-tone would be this gray hair, And if I wanted to make it lighter, I would add white, or I would tint it. If I wanted to make it darker, then I would add some shade to it, or some shadow, or some darkness, right? So if you ever in an art class and someone's trying to purposefully confuse you by using tinted or shaded, or tints and shades, instead of just speaking English and saying, make this a little lighter, you might want to add some white there. They try to sound extra fancy. That's what it means. You're either tinting it or shading it, right? Um, yeah. So I am going to, I'm going to make all that invisible. And I'm also going to make this invisible. And you can be invisible too. Let's go to another face, right? What we are going to do here is we're going to utilize this value scale. Just put this stuff over there. It's a good thing you can't see this screen to see me shuffling and moving all this stuff all over the place. But yeah, so we're going to use this value scale, and we are going to, I'm going to make it a little bigger. We're going to play around with it, and willfully on your side, you made a value scale. If not, I'd encourage you to do it. Where are you? There you are. I'm gonna make this a little bigger so you can see it. Okay, and I am going to do a little experiment and see if we can match the value, right? So I'm not gonna be using like any fancy tricks to pick colors. Instead, I'm gonna use this little eyedropper tool here, which is going to let me choose a color from my value scale. And what we're going to do is we're going to attempt to basically decide. I'm going to circle a point on, let me use something I can see. I'm going to circle a point on the image itself, and we're going to play a game called What's That Value, right? And when you're playing this game, the rules are simple. Circle a point and determine what point on the value scale represents that value. So let's say I circle this. Excuse you, I'm trying to draw on this. Okay. Got something you want to tell me, buddy? Okay, I can always delete you since you want to be fussy. There we go. Sorry, that it was being insubordinate, so had to kill him. Yeah, yeah. So you have this out area right here, right? So what do you think? Which value we got? I guess I should number these. We gotta move quick though, because I know that delay like one, 2, 3. I'm lazy. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I just made this game up, by the way. So if you go to Google it, you won't find it. I need a patent in this game. Okay, so name that value. Or what's that value? Which value are we going with? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What we got? Thank you so much. Oh, I guess I answered your question well enough. Artistic proverbs. I don't know which one was the proverb. I don't know which one was the proverb. And I'm looking at the screen that you guys can see. I'm not sure if that's large enough for you guys to see it. So maybe I should choose a different area when it's a little bit more obvious. 7. Okay, we got a 7. Anu Radio says 7. And I'll leave an extra 20 seconds just in case because of delay. You know. But yeah, these techniques help us out a lot in terms of determining what it is we're drawing, how to shade it, and how name that value. Brought to you by Houseman Alex, sponsored by whatever he's wearing, because this man is dope. This man fly. 5, 5, 5. Okay, we got a 5. So we got a 7, we got a 5, and okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so we got 7 and we got 5. So I'll move back to my screen over here and we'll see which one I can apply. I'm actually thinking is closer to 5 as well. I would even say is somewhere between 5 and 4, but 5 is looking pretty close. So I'll try 7 just to humor Anu Radio. Let's see. Cannot draw on a hidden layout. Why y'all keep trying to usurp my lesson? What's going on? Respect my gangster. Okay, so that's 7. And as you can see, 7 is too dark. He look like he about to play football. I'm about to go play football. Okay, so we know it's not 7. Let's try 5. Let's see how 5 looks. I drop a. Is it 5? It is 5. Look at that. You can hardly even see it. Okay, so we know The 5 is it takes up this area. So I know if I want to shade that area, I'm going to use a 5, right? And for you, for those of you using physical sketchbooks, the 5 wouldn't be selected the way I selected it with the eyedropper tool. It would be selected by either the pencil or the amount of pressure that you apply, right? So there's only so much pressure sensitivity on this tablet that I'm using. But for you guys, you all know that when you harder you press down on the surface, the darker it's going to be, but also the more likely you are to indent it. And you don't want to indent it because, as we just covered, um, what's going to happen with those indentations is you're going to make a valley, and you're making subtle valleys, but you don't want to make a super dense valley because when light shines dead center into it, it's going to create a highlight, and your paper is going to look extra shiny because that light is going to go down, bounce right back up, and hit you directly in your eye, and it's going to look super shiny. Okay, so you don't want to create valleys. You just want to spread around the graphite or the charcoal or whatever it is that you're working with. Okay, let me go to the chat and see what everybody's saying. Football with Nelly, right? um, okay, cool. So obviously solving each one that one, right? She licked it. Okay, cool. So let's see what else we got going on here. What other? Um, I'm gonna remove the 5, and that was super close, by the way. Yeah. Okay. So I am going to remove. Can I remove the? I don't know where I got that blue mark from. Blue mark. Uh-oh. I'm deleting everything. Where did I get that blue mark from? I'll do this. There we go. Oh, that's where it came from. Okay. Well, where'd it go? See, that's why I don't like these programs because they play games with you. What the? Anyway, I don't know what I just did. I'll roll with it. You have 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so we back at it, right? Back at it, we never left. In that value. Okay, so now we're going to go on to a different part of the face. Uh, I got more faces, by the way. So let's see what else we got here. I'm gonna say, let's try this area over here. Oh, draw. How about this? 'Cause I'll keep trying to. I want to draw on this layer. I would like to draw on this layer. Please let me draw on this layer. Oh, let me draw on this layer. Oh, duh. Silly me. That's what I needed to do. I'm gonna check killing people because I don't know how to use the program. Okay, so what do we got? What's that? What's that value? Um, well, so actually, in that case, would you select a harder or softer lead? Harder lead makes it lighter and more likely to dent the paper. Softer lead makes it um, easier to make it darker. Okay, so we got a four. What else we got? I wish this was like Photoshop too, where you could zoom in on a particular area. I don't know why this program just doesn't allow you to do it. It's the one downfall of this program. Let me see. Maybe oh, I could do this. Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. I could actually zoom in on it. Okay. Now you can name that one a little better. So Anu Radio says four. What else we got? No other takers? All right. We'll go with the four because we about out of time. So I am going to I'm going to be taking that four and let's zoom in. Oh, very close. Yeah, I'll take it on the radio. Good job. Good eye. Of course, this is a little light. You can see me lightening it up. This is a little lighter than what was actually there, right? He looks like he actually rested last night. Okay, so that's basically a four. I can't even tease on the radio for that one. That was a good choice. Okay, I'm gonna utilize a different image. So we also got this one here, right? I'm just gonna remove you. And I don't know. Okay, so obviously this one is gonna be a little different, right? Why is it gonna be different? It's gonna be different because we're dealing with someone with different skin. So I could actually select anywhere on her face, but I'm gonna select this portion right here. That's it right here. What's that gonna be? Actually, I'll pick two. All right. So I'll pick. I don't have the number. We'll just go in order. We'll go with that one. This one here. This one here. And let's say this one here, and this one here. All right. Uh, I don't know. Can you all see the value scale still? You can see, right? Um, so let's go with this one now. This first one. Which one you picking? I'll zoom in for a second so you get a good look at it. This is the one on her nose. Which one we looking at? Hmm. I think I could do you one better. I know exactly what I'm gonna do. While you're deciding, I'm going to grab this. Actually, piece of that. I'm gonna erase this. I don't need it no more. I'm gonna move you. Yeah. Gonna move you. And also gonna move you. Alright, about here. So we can see better. That should make everything much easier. Why won't it let me? Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Alright, suckers. That's what we gonna do. I'm gonna zoom out first and see what we got. If there's anything in the chat. The one on her nose is a 7. You can only see when you zoom out. Yeah, I'm trying to fix it for Mr. One Tooth Wonder. You rigged this game. Hold on. Let me fix this a little better. I don't like it when people say you're cheating. I'm trying to help them out. Okay, I'll move this here since it's only zooming on this side of the page. I don't know why. You're coming over here. You're over here. Yeah, I gotta figure out how to work this thing when it comes to zooming in and out. Okay, so that should help a little. Yeah, that should help a little. All right, so what we got? Can I play it now? I said play around with this to see if I can get it. Anyway, I'm live. I can't be playing around with this thing. I'll play around with it later. Deal with you later. Let me see if I can zoom in on that. Nope, still nothing. All right, I did my best. Okay, so I saw that the one by her nose was a 7, and I gotta fix that up because this was moved all over the place. So this is right here, right? And I'm just gonna replace you. Just to make it simple. All right, so number 7. Okay, we have 7. Let's see how you did. Survey says, I can't even zoom in and look. That's crazy. Oh, now I can zoom in. Okay, so it was number 7, right? All close enough. See what's happening down there. It's really close to 7, but it could be a little darker. You need a little bit more shade going on there. In the upper space, definitely, this is very close to number 7. I'd have to be a really messed up judge to say, well, that's not dark enough. Okay, so we had number 7 for a nose. That one was correct. And who said what? One on her nose is number 7. All right, everybody else quit. All right, suckers. I'm on my own. Okay, so but I was messing around with it, so I can't say nothing. Okay, so I'll go through these right quick. So you have a 7 here. So I know when I'm painting or drawing, I'll use that box. Ugh. I'll use this box here. That's a number 7. What about this one? Well, let's go up to our value box and see. That one, I would say, is between 4 and 5. So I would vacillate between number 4 and 5. It's looking very close to number 5, but it's a little lighter. And then it's also looking very close to number 4, but it's slightly darker. So, of course, you err on the side of caution and you go with 4. And if you need to make it darker, you can make it darker. So you can see that on the right side is number 4, and on the left side is number 5. Because you have that light space over there. But it's definitely looking more like a number 5 now. So back in, getting the hang of this zooming thing. You put the number 5 on it. We're up. Number 5, all right. So you know how hard to press on it now. And of course, texture is one of the basic elements. So we'll get to texture when we're done with color. Okay, so what else we got here? We have the forehead, which also actually looks like another number 5. So we can try that. And sure enough, it's number 5. It doesn't even look like I'm doing anything, really. But if I do this, then you can tell that something's going on. Right, so that's number 5 there as well. Are there any other number 5s? Maybe over here. Try it out. Sure enough, number 5. Just add a little bit less, a little bit more darkness to it, because number 6 would be too dark. So you add a little bit more shading to that. Over here, This is looking like a 7. It looks almost identical to this one. So as you can see, I can sort of map out each value on the face and assign it a number, right? And what that allows me to do is I can actually look at number 1. Okay, where are my ones? And I just go through and add the ones. Look at my 2, same thing. Look at my 3, same thing. And I don't want to say you're creating a paint by number or color by number or shade by number experience, but you sort of are, because if I'm drawing, let's say if I make that's way too big. Okay, so if I want to make a grid of this face now, I'll use this. Up that, up that. So I make my circle, have my center line, measure 1/3, 1/3, nose, top of your eyebrow, eyes, jaw, mouth, right? And I want to mop her face out a little bit, and I can see that it's tilted this way actually. So everything would be like that. So we got an eyebrow. This is a rough sketch, by the way. Very rough sketch. Eyebrows. Actually, I could just, well, not you. Yeah, I can make this a little bigger and make very broad strokes. Just to nose, 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 mouth, slightly open. And let's say these are her lips. I can already see her eyes, right? Yeah, those are eyes. I can already see that if I want to map out this face very quickly, or you would call it you may call it blocking in, right? You're blocking in the face. And you do this in theater too, where they are blocking in and they basically say, okay, run through the scene. Okay, I liked in this scene where you stood there and you said it's not because it looked natural. So keep that, right? And it's similar to what I'm doing here. I like the way these eyebrows are shaped, and they're pretty much just the correct value. So I want to keep them. But let's say, where are my ones? Ones are very easy to pick out because they're highlights, right? And I don't necessarily want to start with the highlights. I actually want to start with my eights, and I want to separate my eights from my ones, right? It sounds like Genesis, let there be light, separate the light from the darkness. That's what we're gonna do here. They call that your two-tone, is a two-tone blocking, I think. I think that's what they call it. Yeah, don't quote me on that. But it's like a two-tone blocking. Make this a little bigger just to make broad strokes. And we can see on this side, we have our darker spaces. Much bigger. Not that big, but yeah. And all I'm doing is just blocking in. Okay, I know that these areas are dark. And I'm blocking them in darkly, but I'm not going to be pressing down on them too much. I'm just blocking in where the dark parts of the face are. And I can bring this around here. This comes close to the middle of the face, middle of the forehead. I know all of this is black. I don't have to worry about that. Okay, I know most of this is dark. And if I drew her neck, let's say I'll draw it behind her hand, I know that this area is dark too. All right, so that's my 8. And I'll increase the flow a little bit just so you can see the contrast of the dark. Okay, so I know that's kind of my 8. And some parts here. And then some parts here. And all I'm doing is putting information on the page. I'm not trying to make anything look like anything. I'm just trying to see where this particular piece of shading or shadow or value winds up on the page. And it's important to, in your blocking stage, not get too committed to details for one, but also not to get too committed to where you put something, right? Because it's gonna move, it's gonna get shaded down, it's gonna get altered. So you want to make sure that it's very easy to erase. So it's easy for me to erase because this digital, it's like nothing. All right. So sevens, where are my sevens? Well, we identified some of the sevens earlier. And one of the sevens was on her nose. Reduce that. Another 7 was around her eyelid, right? We can see that 7 and 8 are so close together. I can actually sort of skip that for now. So I'm going to skip 7 for now and go to something that shows me a little bit more contrast. I'll go to 4. 4 is a mid-tone. And I can utilize 4 as my first layer for this side over here, right? Because it's so light. So if I need to darken it, then no problem. I actually need to increase this just so we can see 4. C4, get it. All right, so you got 4 all over the place, right? 4 is what you would call your mid-tone. So it would actually occupy most of your drawing space. And it's very helpful to start from a mid-tone as well. Like, as you could see, those of you who are around when I was using the sketchbook, my sketchbook pages aren't white, they're gray. And that's like an automatic mid-tone. So since it's an automatic mid-tone, I don't have to worry about where I start. I can go to my darks or my lights, and when it comes to blocking and my highlights, I can just erase stuff, or I can use white. Right. So I'm just blocking in areas again, like I said. Making sure that the darks don't infringe on where the light should be, vice versa. All right, so now we got a semi sort of Frankenstein face. Is there anything lighter than a mid-tone? I could ask myself that question. Of course, there is. There's the nose, which I could give it to, and I'm moving very arbitrarily right now. But if you guys can see that, haha, I got used to the zoom in. Yeah, but if you guys can see that I use 2 here, I can even use some light colors here too, just to brighten up the cheeks. And again, I'm just demonstrating, and reviewing as well for myself, that I'm only looking at this thing and saying, okay, can I spot that value? And do I know where to put it? You know, and what helps me to place these values is actually shapes, because you're going to be drawing shapes in the form of your value, or you're going to be applying your value in the form of shapes, you know. So let's go back over to the image. Look at that, zoom in like a pro, zoom in like a pro. All right. um, was it this? Was it this? Yeah, I'm gonna make this invisible. I don't know where the 7 came from though. I'm gonna try and ignore that 7. Oh, there we go. I can actually delete that. Keep this area clean. Okay, so I can actually draw shapes around the shadows as well, and I can utilize shapes in order to block in my shadows. So I can say, this might be too thick. Yeah, not be too thick. All right, so I don't necessarily have to get this shadow 100% correct. I can just draw a block, a simple shape, or a simple polygon to let me know that this is the basic form of the shape, like right there. Um, if I want to get fancy, I can even use contour lines and say, okay, this shape wraps around the nose at the bottom, and this wraps around the nose at the top. This is an indentation here, and this sort of wraps around here. So I can use a shape like that as well. Similar to the nose, I can use one big compound shape like I did here, or I can use many smaller shapes like right here. This is one small shape. This is another small shape. Another one. Another one. You another one. And these can be refined a little bit later, but for right now, I'm using shapes to determine the boundaries of my values, whatever values I'm seeking to add on. Um, this is the block of light that I see that's on this person's face. And then I can use whatever shade I deem fit to color it in. This is a shape right here, right? And it almost looks like reflected light, doesn't it? If you're still here, Sister Maria. But again, you can go through these over and over and just spot different shapes. And that'll make it easier for you to apply different values. So what I'm going to do now is let's say I remove that. I think I got like one image left. Right. This one is where you can see like that two-tone sort of effect that you may want to go for in order to make sure that you get everything on paper quickly. And then you can start working with it. Like it almost feel like um, making sure you understand instructions or making sure that you're reading something correctly versus actually getting into a groove and doing the thing, right? So I'm going to use the same color, and this is where it gets tricky when it comes to hands. I already know that this is my light area here. Right, more or less. I already know that. That's my light area here. And everything else is dark. Same with here. This is my dark area. All of it, right? Even though it is subtle, you can say that this is an 8 and this is a 7. Right. I could go on with that, but I'm not going to because I think we've sort of made our point in terms of not necessarily being um, super sketchy tonight, but just learning the value, no pun intended, of separating lights and darks. Right. I think that is a very, very useful skill. So that when you even just look at something or glance at something, you can tell whether you should be applying a lot of pressure, a little pressure, if you should skip that part and come back to it later. Because some things, some areas you want to do what's called, you want to use what's called, which you can refer to as a negative approach. And what I mean by a negative approach is, whoops, main layer is empty. Don't sass me. Okay, so what I mean by a negative approach is you may determine that something on a face is going to be difficult to draw if you try to actively draw it. So what you may want to do instead is draw around it. Draw every single shape around it. Right? So you may draw eyes, and the mouth. I didn't do anything to draw the nose. I didn't do anything to draw any of these shapes, honestly. All I did was shade around them. And by shading around them, the shape is implied. And then by the shape being implied, you can then say, okay, now we've determined that all of this is darker. Now I can sort of start shading the nose and make it a little brighter. Same thing may go for the lips. But I don't want to draw in these highlights at the top of the lip. I want to draw everything around them and just leave them to be revealed. I don't want to draw this highlight down at the bottom of the lips. I just want to draw everything around it. And the highlight will reveal itself. Okay, so that's what I mean by a negative approach, more or less in a nutshell. You're not necessarily drawing the thing, you're just drawing every shape around the thing. And by process of elimination, that thing will take shape. Okay, so but that's it for me. I think we've been on for quite a while. Yeah, hour and a half. I think that's a good time. Um, 6. I don't know where that what you were referring to, Sovereign Eats. I think I'd move on. by the time that was in. But yeah, that's value in a nutshell. Willfully, that was informative and it made sense. You know, I'm always welcoming feedback so that you guys can let me know what I can do to improve. I give thanks, Sovereign Eats, for your feedback and the feedback from your 9-year-old. Let me know that if I'm too long winded, he's just going to put on some music and copy what I do as opposed to listen to me. But you did say at the end of the day, when he noticed that I was explaining stuff, he went back and listened to the explanation, which is encouraging for me, you know, because people are getting a lot out of it. And as we go along, I'll be including more structured stuff. But right now, I'm just exploring concepts that I hadn't thoroughly explored before, and I still haven't thoroughly explored them. But even going through them on a very basic level is helping me to, wrap my mind around the important parts. Like, what's the most important thing that I can explain to someone so that it can be effective, as opposed to saying, join my class for 10.99 and you learn nothing. I don't want to do that to anyone. I want to make sure that they get the best of what I'm offering, what I can offer, and that way they can apply it immediately. Right? That's my will. That's my wish. So with that, I am going to head out. Once again, give thanks for everyone who came through and who will come through later. Yeah, that's about it. Peace, y'all.